Welcome to That's Joy, the podcast. I'm your host, Cece Calbanero, and I'll be sharing stories of miracles, God moments, and unpacking the truth behind what joy truly means. My friend, when God gives you a direct call on your life, be sure to answer it. Here's to answering my call together. Hello, friends. Welcome back to That's Joy, the podcast. I'm so excited to have y'all in the house today because we have a special guest. And this guest of mine is actually a sweet friend. And there's just so much to our friendship and how God moved in and through the both of us and what God is doing that I can't wait to share with y'all. But before we do anything, if you're new around here, you might not know that we kick off every episode with a little joyful noise. Joyful noise is just our version of good news. What are the good things that are happening? Let's highlight more of that. And by the way, you can share your joyful noise with us. You could literally shoot me a text to the number in the show notes, and I would love to quite literally read off whatever is happening in and around you. There's always room for more joyful noise here. So today's joyful noise is actually just a personal note with things that are happening on That's Joy. So y'all, we crossed an incredible threshold of over 200,000 downloads. Praise God. I am just over the moon. I can't believe that a number that I quite literally thought was miles and miles and miles away is here. And so that is by the grace of each and every one of you who continue to plug in week after week and share this podcast with your friends and binge the podcast and listen to several episodes at a time. I've gotten so many notes that y'all have been on your summer road trips listening to That's Joy, and I don't take that lightly. There's a friend that found the podcast just on her For You, like within Spotify, and that is so cool. Like that God would just use all of the different vessels of today's age to allow this very moment of me recording into this microphone to reach you. And I'm talking people all over the world are listening to That's Joy. So thank you times a million. Something that I've been working on as a kind of side project is our Joy newsletter. So you can finally sign up to receive our emails, and it is called The Joy Corner. Y'all, I shared a bit on this last week on my Instagram stories, but I am just over the moon with what God is doing in and through this platform. The emails are really awesome because I've had different things laid on my heart since I started That's Joy, which is March 7th, 2022, gotten just different ideas on what a newsletter can look like. And I never pressed go until this last week. And so all of these ideas have kind of been marinating for quite some time, as you can imagine. But basically, the newsletter is broken down as the beginning just being a heart-to-heart, what I want to share with you immediately. And then it swifts into golden nuggets. And you know me, I love a golden nugget. Golden nuggets, it might sound funny. We're not talking about McDonald's here, but we do love some Chick-fil-A nuggets. Anyhow, back on track, Cece. A golden nugget is just a word of wisdom. Like, what's some fire that you heard, whether it be a quote from someone else or a thought that you had that you know is going to help someone else. That's my version of a golden nugget. So I share a golden nugget story with y'all, and usually that's just what God is teaching me and in through this week or this season. And so that is the second part there. And then I highlight numerous trending podcast episodes. So I'll always do about 3 episodes. And so if you miss any, you can just check our email and be like, what are the top 3 that are thriving right now? Let me listen to those. Boom, you got it listed. And then after that, highlight there is my favorite part, which is That's Joy, the movement. We haven't talked a lot about this in a while, but essentially another thing that has been so heavy on my heart is this idea of how do we put this into play? That's Joy, the movement is so much of what you learn here, the equipping that takes place here in and through the podcast is the direct application now. So now that we know all of the things of what joy looks like, what joy sounds like, how we can experience it, it is then our job, and I believe our duty as Christians and believers, to go out into the world and make that difference and apply the knowledge that you have learned into our communities. And so that's where the movement is, that it's being the hands and feet of Jesus in unique ways. So in the newsletter, my goal is to always have a segment, whether it be a month at a time, a couple weeks at a time. I'm not sure. We'll shake it out as we go. But for instance, this first one is clearing one of my good friend Shannon's classroom Amazon wish list. Christmas and wish list just kind of just go hand in hand. You know what I mean? I mean, we're more than halfway back to Christmas. Anyhow, I'm a distracted girly. So then the email leads to That's Joy the Movement. We'll highlight a story and we'll choose to give back as a That's Joy community to whatever person is highlighted and their story. And then I'll highlight one of y'all's reviews, and y'all have just doubled down on the reviews. So thank you for taking 2 minutes to hop on to Apple Podcast and write an review. It means so much, and it actually does more than you think for podcasters out there. So thank you for taking the time to do that. That was long-winded. I think we're ready to welcome our guest. Hope Harris is an author, she's a mama, she's a wife, she's a full-time employee with YouVersion. She is making waves for the kingdom of God, and she is a sweet friend. I cannot wait to share her with y'all. That's Joy community. Let's give the warmest welcome to Sweet Hope. Hope. Oh my goodness. Okay, you guys, we have a very special friend in the house, and I am so grateful that I get to share her with y'all. So giving you a little bit of a backstory with Hope and I, we both were LO Sister Ambassadors, which is underneath Sadie Robertson's kind of like ministry. She has an LO Sister app. And so we were at a mutual retreat together, and Hope is one of those people where we just met and we're like, whoa, wait, where have you been all my life? So Hope, welcome to That's Joy.
Oh my goodness, Cece, it is such an honor to be here, all the way from meeting in Louisiana to staying in touch since. It's so
literally
fun.
like in the wilderness of Louisiana to where are you at now? What state are you in?
I'm in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Arkansas,
Yep,
that is
yep,
right.
Arkansas.
And I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and somehow, some
Yep.
way, God, we are here. So thank you for
Yes,
being
we are.
here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cece.
Hope, for those of the peeps who are listening right now, I mean, I love this because I'm looking at you and I'm like, you are such a bottle of joy. This is going to be so much fun on this episode. But if they don't know you yet, will you share more about who is Hope and when and how did she find God?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess people would describe me as a wife to my husband. Will, we've been married, we just hit 6 years. We
Come on.
dated, I know it's crazy. I'm like 6 years. We got married right out of college and dated distance all throughout college. So that's super sweet. We just had our first baby girl, Remy Claire. She is 6 months old. So I'm a new mom. Guess I'm also an author. I had my first devotional come out with Dayspring last year called This Is My Happy Place. And we've got an upcoming book that we're going to talk about a little bit, and Cece's actually in, that's coming out in October, called Purpose Doesn't Pause. And I also work for YouVersion as a product manager for the generosity space. So trying to figure out how do we bring some cool experiences that are coming soon to the YouVersion Bible app around generosity, and specifically for those that give to the app. So super excited to be here.
Come on, Hope. That is amazing. I
Yeah.
feel like there are so many different things that you get to do that I can't wait to dive into. How at what point did you start walking with the Lord? Because I don't know if I fully even know
Yeah.
how you got to know the Lord.
Yeah, so I grew up in a Christian home and grew up going to church, but I would really say in the last like 4 years, my relationship with the Lord has gone from something where, it was kind of more of my parents' relationship to like, I have a relationship with the Lord that is indescribable. Like I cannot even explain. And it's really around feeling stuck and confused in life. So I was working before YouVersion. You know this, CC, but those listening probably don't. I was working for Walmart's corporate office. And, I went basically from graduating college to getting married to just grinding in the corporate world. I did that for 6 years. And probably about 3 years into my career, I had just been climbing the corporate ladder, like just doing everything I could. I put everything into work. And I had actually just done this crazy assignment where an SVP had challenged me to automate a lot of the work of the team I was leading, to work myself out of the job. And it was basically this promise that I would get this huge promotion to the director level. And I did this assignment in a year. We thought it was going to take me 2 years. And when I came and I got out of the assignment, she had gotten cancer and she was gone. And so they were like, Hope, you're going to have to take a lateral. Like, thank you for your work, but we don't think you're ready for the next level. And so I took a lateral, just from a senior manager 2 to a senior manager 2. And I thought this was going to be so good. I'd kind of come off this career high, and suddenly the guy that I was dotted line reporting to was like, why are you even here? Like, I don't understand your skill set. I don't even know how to use you, Hope. He was getting like super frustrated with me because I was in a finance role and I didn't have the finance background. I was really there to lead like big projects and transformation efforts. And so I just got super confused because I realized my whole worth was what I was doing, the success that I had been able to achieve. And suddenly, like, that just wasn't cutting it anymore. And so I finally was like, who am I? Like,
Mm,
where is my worth coming from? And so I went into this intense season of confusion where I had to come back to the Lord and just be like, God, I
yeah.
literally went into the season of like depression, to be totally honest, and a lot of anxiety. And it's also in the middle of COVID. So we were working remote and I just hit rock bottom. And when I hit rock bottom, I knew, you know what, I've just got to lean on what I knew from growing up and that relationship that I had built, but I've got to go all in on God and no longer all in on my career and all in on what I'm achieving and all in on busyness. And so it
Yeah.
was this journey that really took like 3 years of just figuring out, okay, who does he say I am? Like, what is
Mm.
my purpose? Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because it doesn't cut it anymore for these accolades and these titles and climbing. Like, that just doesn't give me the satisfaction that I found from the Lord and finding who he says I am. So that's really where I feel like the journey just peaked and why I am where I am today in my faith journey.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think a lot of people are identifying so much of their own, identity in what they do too. I highly resonate with that. I mean, if y'all have been
Yeah,
hanging around this community of That's Joy, I mean, I had my quote unquote dream job in 2019 too, which
right.
I actually shared a lot about in Hope's book, like she mentioned.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about that at the end. But just really resonating with the fact that it's so easy to place your identity in things outside of simply who God says you are. And
Yeah.
it's easy because I think the world makes it kind of easy, right? Like when we get those accomplishments and those accolades in work
Yeah.
or in sports, or maybe you're in school right now and you're like, I have all A's, I have a 4.2 GPA. Like
Yeah.
we start to identify as someone who is that accomplished person rather than simply, I am a daughter of the king. And so,
Right.
what you're sharing is just, I think, really relatable and just a beautiful picture of how God chases us down, because
Yeah,
sometimes
he
we have to
does.
get down, we have to get to those places, unfortunately, at
Yeah.
times where if we don't take ourselves out, we have to get brought to it, but it's all for the good and all for his glory. And so your life paints so much of that picture. I'm curious because I know there are people who are probably listening right now and they're
Yeah.
like, hold up, she is in a 6-year marriage. She's a new mama. She's writing another book and she has a full-time job. Like, what? Let's pump the brakes. So I'm curious to know, Hope, as God has given you the ability to just wear so many different hats. you walk with such a holy confidence in it all. And I'll say that even from meeting you at the retreat, like the joy that you carry, it's so evident that your faith is so rooted because you drip with joy in a lot of ways. And
Thanks,
so
Casey.
I know that you have to show up in that same way with all of those different roles that you have as a mama, as a wife, and as an employee and a coworker, and so on. And so I get curious to know, have you always been this confident?
Oh my goodness. I do not think that I have been. And I've actually recently been challenged even at work now where I was on the phone with my boss the other day and we were talking and he was like, and I love this because I've never had a leader that has done this for me, but he's like, Hope, one-on-ones, we're just going to talk about how you're doing personally, how you're doing spiritually. We're not going to talk about progress because I know you and you're going to take care of the progress by yourself. So
Mm.
you're talking and I'm like, that's great. I'm so excited to learn from you and you to learn more about me. And he's like, Hope, where does this lack of confidence come from? Like, I think I have so much that I can learn from you. And so it's interesting how I think in some areas of my life, I appear super confident and I know the Lord's called me to this. But then in other areas, I'm a little bit shaky of like, I still have so much to learn. And so I think it's this kind of this tension of being humble, but also walking, like you're saying, knowing that the Lord like has called you to what he's called you to. And I feel like that's where the Lord's really challenged me because a lot of the times doubt creeps in, like I sometimes I feel guilty, like, oh man, I'm not seeing Remy all day, like I'm working. But I have to remember and like when I start feeling shaky, I have to start remembering like God put me at this seat at the table for this specific time and place. And if God
Mm.
put me at this seat at the table, that's because he wants a seat at the table. And so I have to steward that so well and know that, as a new mom, I think it's so easy too for me to feel like, am I really giving Remy the best? And it's like, okay, in everything that I'm doing, and I think this parlays even, if you're not a mom, it's like, okay, God knew you. God created you and he's giving you his very best. And so you can step into it with confidence, knowing that he wouldn't have given this to you if he didn't think you could handle it, or if he wasn't going to create the space and the time for you to step into this. And so I think the confidence, like you're saying, it's just I'm always having to go back to my why because doubt, like it's a daily thing of like the doubt creeping in of like, oh, I'm not ready for this. And then I just have to remember, like we were talking about earlier, like who he says I am and back to like why I don't have to be confused because he is so clear about who we are. We're his children. He's so clear about our purpose, which is to love God and love the people around us. And I think that it's less about what we do and it's really about who we are. And so we can be confident because our who is already clear and determined by him. And
Yeah.
so that's really how I walk with that confidence, even when have the mom guilt or I feel like not qualified, but he qualifies us.
Totally. I love that you even talk about that tension piece because I love listening to Craig Rochelle's podcast, but he has
He's
a
great.
he's so good. His leadership podcast is so powerful. I'll never forget an episode where he was sharing about those tension points and how the best leaders and the strongest leaders in the world often live in between those tension points. And so it's saying, for instance, just two examples is like, you need to not be too patient, but also not be too persistent and living in
Right.
that tension point. And you need to not be like, there were so many other examples. I have to find the podcast episode and share it with y'all, but there are so many
Yes.
examples of what it looks like to live in that in between. And I think it's so much of life, right? Like we'll still have doubt, but then we need to walk and remember our holy confidence and lean
A
on that.
hundred percent.
And it's not, I love that you share that and you're open with that because I think so often we can look at authors, content creators, people online and just think they have it all, like they never
Yeah.
experience doubt. And that's just a
Oh
lie.
my gosh. No, all the time do I experience doubt. I mean, even I truly felt like the Lord was calling me away from Walmart, like during my maternity
Mm.
leave. And at the very end, I knew I was like, okay, he's making one thing clear, and it is that I am not to be going back to Walmart. I had applied for a director role. I, went and took another stab at it. And I remember this was before Thanksgiving break, I was asked to apply for it. And I just told God right before I did that interview, I actually wrote out a prayer as I was sitting in the interview room waiting for the people to interview me. And I was like, Lord, this is not where you're calling me back after Remy's born. Slam the door shut.
Come
I never
on.
heard about the job until when I was on maternity leave. A peer actually reached out and was like, hey, the hiring managers asked me to apply for the role. Can you give me interview advice? And I'm like, what the heck? Like, does that mean I didn't get the job? And then she texts me a week later and is like, hey, just want to let you know I got the job. This was in March, and I was told that I was going to know something in January. So I mean, you can imagine so many tears. I'm like, I am like 8 weeks postpartum. God, what the heck are you doing? And
Wow.
finally, I had this mentor kind of say, Hope, like the first thing you got to do when you feel like doubt and you feel confused is just lean into what you know God is clearly calling you to do. And I knew it was clearly not Walmart. So I called Will one day on a Wednesday, and this was about probably 5 or 6 weeks before I needed to go back to Walmart if I was going to go back after maternity leave. I was like, Will, I am not supposed to go back to Walmart. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't know if I'm just going to be speaking. I don't have any speaking engagements lined up. I don't know if I'm just going to be writing. Like, I don't know what he's calling me, but I know it's not Walmart. And Will was like, okay, that's great. Like, that's fine. He's like, I trust you, Hope. I know you're listening to the Lord. Well, then that night, I remember telling myself, you know what? Just like God sent Samuel to find David, I know that God knows exactly where I am, and he's going to find someone. Like, I don't have to doubt that he doesn't know where I am, and I don't have to doubt that he's not working, and I can have that confidence. And literally the next day I checked my email, and someone that I connected with from YouVersion 3 years prior reached out and is like, I'm going to be in Rogers, Arkansas, which is very random. He was going to come to the Life Church here just to check in, and I want to do coffee. And the rest is history. I literally got the job 3 days before I needed to put in my 2 weeks to Walmart. And it's
Oh
just
my.
like, that to say, like, I still experience doubt of like, does God have a plan for me? Is God working? Like, but I can confidently say, like, over and over again, he is just so faithful, and he is not a silent God. Like, and he is not a God that doesn't listen. And I say that of like, now I'm walking in even more confidence right now because I just have come from a season of so much confusion. I see clarity, and I see what he was doing for the last 3 years in me. And he had to do something in me with my pride and my like just wanting to achieve, and like my worth coming from that before he could put me in this ministry role. And that's what he was doing, and I'm confident in that now.
Yeah. I mean, you're like, I I'm just in awe because I think knowing so much of the before too, I remember you sharing so much of
Yeah,
the Walmart journey with me when we were on phone calls talking
right.
about the book that would be coming out. And now seeing what God was doing is just incredible, and something that is incredibly encouraging too to a friend who might be listening, who might be in that same boat of like door after door shutting, knock and
Yep.
no answers. Something that a sweet friend shared with me too is in those gaps and in those in betweens, Cece, there are people who your name is circulating in rooms that you don't know of.
That's so
And
good.
it's so good because what you literally just said, like you're the person from YouVersion, were laid on their heart from God, like your
Yeah.
name popped up
Yeah.
in their minds and they're like, huh, I'm in Arkansas. I got to reach out to that girl, Hope. But in the middle of our confusion and our doubt, the Lord is so graciously downloading our name into the hearts of others so that
So
they may
good.
feel the courage to reach out. And it's those nudges we have to listen to
Yes.
in order to walk in that like divine appointment that God has for us, and so I
So
love that you
good.
shared that because
So
it's
good.
encouraging. It's like, okay, he's not early, but he's not late, like
Exactly. He's right on time. I
he's
had
right
three
on time.
days to process that I was going to quit my career at Walmart that I had been promised to be on the executive track. And I'd come to process the salary cut that I was about to take. And now on the other side, I'm like, man, I just so good. And I can't even like express just how thankful and the gratitude that I feel right now in this season of life.
Yeah, and I love that you're just humble enough to talk about what God was teaching you in and through yourself too in the
Yes.
seasons of the waiting, because I think we shy away from that. Like, oh gosh, I don't want to uproot my pride, and I don't want to have to sift through my unselfishness, but it's those very things that we are challenged and called to do to get to where God wants us. And
Right.
I resonate with that too, because hello, I've been there too. I'm
Yeah.
walking through versions of that now where it's like, all right, am I a little bit prideful in this area? Like, God, will you humble
Yeah.
me in this way? And so
It is
that's
hard.
amazing.
Like, it's hard. I mean, the last 3 years, the me and my mom were talking about this, and she was like, "Hope, I feel like the Lord just had," because I entered when I started actually talking with you about I wanted to write on confusion. I was in the job that I just spoke about, like where the guy was like, "Hope, what the heck are you doing here? I don't know how to use you." Then after that, I was in a job where basically the senior leader was not very encouraging of starting a family. And so I was in
Mm,
this role where I just had found out I was pregnant, and there was just a whole nother thing that I was going through, which I touch on a little bit in my writing, but it was just job after job, just it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And when I thought one season was so confusing, I reached the peak, and I was writing during the midst of all of this. And I'm like, God, why? And
mm,
I see now my mom's like, he had to get you so dissatisfied by the work that you were doing at Walmart and just take all those sparkles away and take all the pride away and just bring you back to who you are because of who he is. And
yeah.
he just had to peel all that away. And it took work. I mean, 3 years, I had a lot of deep roots that he just had to prune and cut. But now I'm like, man, it was so needed. It was so needed. So if you're in the hard right now, like just keep going. Don't take the shortcut. Allow him to do the work, because on the other side of the hard and the sacrifices, like you're going to just want to scream his name because he's so good.
Yeah, that's so good. And actually, I was reading through John this morning, and
Uh,
specifically John 9:3 talked about like the blind man and how Jesus healed the blind man. And it read through the story yourself because I may butcher it, but I'm gonna best explain it as how I
you
understood
got
it in
this.
this moment. But basically, they were asking Jesus, like, oh, he was a sinner. Is that why he was blind? And Jesus simply said, no, it actually is because he's going to give the glory to God. And so I think it answers the question of why God so beautifully. And I literally pointed to that verse and I was like, this is the answer to quote unquote, why God. And it's we
Yeah.
walk through these seasons, we go through these valleys to give him the glory, to show that
Right.
it's none of us and all of him.
Yeah.
And there will be a day where a book does come out where you're speaking on a stage, where you're talking about the very valleys and the things that he's brought you through. And guess what?
Yes.
He gets all the
That gives me chills.
glory,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is
It's
so
all
cool.
him.
Come on. That's beautiful. I get curious to like just ask you this question, Hope, but at this stage of your life, I mean, obviously you're still a bit younger, but you also have years behind you as far as wisdom
Right.
goes. Do you feel like at this stage of your life, you found your purpose? And for the girls who are looking out and listening to this and are a lot younger in college, maybe, what would be your best advice for them to find their own purpose?
Yeah. So I'm about to turn 29. And when I really look back on my 20s, I was just so lost searching for my purpose. And as I've really dug into the word, I think we complicate it. I think there's a difference between purpose and calling, but the purpose is really wherever your feet are every single day, whether that's the grocery store, pumping gas, going to the coffee shop, at work, wherever you are. It's just loving God with all your heart, making him a priority in your daily life, partnering with him to do his work, and loving those people around you like they're $1,000,000. Like that is
Mm,
literally your purpose. And I think it's so easy to be like, what am I going to be when I grow up? Or what am I going to do? And I'm here to tell you, my career journey made no sense. Like, let him do the work, because at one point I was in procurement where my team was creating purchase orders. Then I was rolling out software globally and traveling to China and India and doing these different things. Then I was in finance. And then in my last role, I was in a membership program. And now I come over into YouVersion. I needed to know every single piece of what seemed random for this role that I'm in. And
come
I would just
on.
say, don't let the random stifle you. Don't spend too much time asking why, because I've spent so much time like, God, why am I here? Why am I here? Just trust him. Know that there's a bigger picture that you're a part of, and just freaking love him and love those people around you. And I promise you, it'll at some point it'll make sense. And just trust that there's something bigger that you can't even see. And like honestly, we will never even understand until we're in heaven. Like there's
True.
just a piece of that mystery. And like praise God for that. Do you really want to understand, have a syllabus for your life? Like I know it sounds nice at times, but like how cool is the roller coaster of like, God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Look what you're doing, it's
Yeah.
like so fun. And so I would just say, hold on tight, trust him, just love him with all your heart, ask him to partner with you, and just love on those people, make them feel like a child of God, like make them feel like $1,000,000. And they're like, that gives him so much glory in it. That's your purpose.
Yeah, yeah, I love that part where you just said, if we had the syllabus for our life, it's so true. Like, we think that we want that, but then I
Yeah.
think of the movie Click with Adam Sandler,
Yeah.
and it's like,
It's like,
okay,
really?
right, like, you think you want that, but to gain the whole world is to lose your soul, and, like, we
A
don't
hundred
want
percent.
that. We don't want that,
No, a hundred
y'all,
percent.
you
Yeah,
know?
we don't.
And if we did have that, there would be no need for God.
Yeah,
So it's like,
100%.
yeah, that's so good. I love that. I get curious too, a little bit off script here, but I love the application pieces, and you have such like a sound mind. And I love that you have such a steadfastness with your thoughts and your beliefs, and just how you view God is so special. What are some of those like tactical things that Hope does every day to like help you have this mindset that you have, you know?
Yeah, no, that's good. I try to every day before the day even starts, just invite God in, because the more I'm learning about him, the more I'm like, he gives us these desires. When we give him those desires back, you do this partnership just happens, and it's amazing. And now that I'm working for Life Church and YouVersion, one of the mission statements is something along the lines of like, we take risk, like bet the whole farm type of risk, and we just trust God with it. And so I've been trying to do some things in my life that feel a little bit out of character and feel a little risky, like this conference that I'm going to be hosting. For Purpose Isn't Pause, I just felt so called to do it, and I don't have the details figured out. I may not break even on it, I don't know, but day by day, like for example, I reached out to this flower shop and I just called and I was like, hey, I don't know if you'd be interested in it, but like maybe I could buy flowers from you at wholesale, or, maybe there's some type of discount. She called me back and was like, I heard your voicemail. Normally my team members handle these requests, but I just want to let you know I heard this and I really feel this nudging from God. And I really am going to try to find a way to just give you these flowers for your conference. And it's just things like that,
Oh my
Cece, where it's like
gosh.
when we invite him in and we just say, God, I don't know how this is going to work, but I know your currency is not the things of this world. I know your
Mm,
currency is not money. I know your currency is not success. Like make a way. Like this is not a hurdle for you. And I'm just seeing him time over time just like blow my mind. And so I think like you're saying, I invite him in and then I lean in like you were talking about with those nudges. I am so on the same page with those nudges. Like you just lean into those nudges and trust him. I think that just really brings you back to recenters you around like having to just fully cling to him and hold on tight. Like, God, I don't know what's happening, but I know this is going to be good because you are good. And
yeah.
so that's really what I practice in my daily life is like take some risks that just make me dream and make me excited, because he's a creative God. And I think there's so much to it when you can be creative on how's this going to work and not really knowing in the moment, but just saying yes. And
Yeah.
then trusting him with the details. So I
Come
would
on.
say it's inviting him in, saying yes to what you feel called to, and not letting the details stifle you or confuse you, and just partner with him on figuring that out. And that's really how I keep my mind like focused on what he's doing.
Come on. That's so good. So speaking of just like purpose and all things purpose, your book is coming out in
Yes.
October, which is so exciting. And for those of y'all who are listening, I have a freaking part in the book, which is
Yes.
so cool because I've never been in a
Yes.
book before. And so this is incredible to be able to share like this moment together along with so many other incredible women that the Lord has laid down on your heart, which again ties back to what I was just talking about. Like, I had no idea that in the middle of moments where I wanted and to experience the light, Hope had me on her heart to reach out to
Yes.
be a part of this book, which is so cool. So, Hope, will you just share with us the heartbeat behind this book and
Yeah,
how really, like, how many people are in it and like how you
of course.
felt like, Lord, this isn't just a book that I'm going to be in, but I'm going to bring these other gals into it too.
Yeah, no, of course. So, guys, I'm just learning God uses unconventional things to do like uses unconventional moments to do unconventional things. And so this all started really with a Peloton ride. I had just come out with This Is My Happy Place. I loved writing. I really feel like the Lord has called me to write and to encourage other women for his glory. And I was on a Peloton one day in the midst of the confusion that I have explained through this podcast, just the guy asking, "What the heck are you doing?" Really the first time that my career wasn't fulfilling me anymore. And that wasn't where I was getting my worth. So I was sitting on a Peloton, I was watching the class. I'll never forget my husband Will walking in and just sitting there watching. And Will's like, "Hope, you have to move your legs." And in the moment we were cracking up because like you know that when you're just so overwhelmed and you're so confused that you don't even have energy for the things that you used to enjoy. You don't even have the energy to do the things you know you should do. And
Mm.
so Will left the room and I started thinking, man, like, what if I just lean into this resistance that Kindle, I was listening to Kindle, and I pumped up the resistance and I just leaned into the bike. And for some reason, that resistance was so much easier than the posture of me just kind of sitting back, not focused, not caring felt. And so I'm like, I am doing this in my daily life. I'm living my daily life on pause, waiting for the life that I want, not living the life that God's giving me, not trusting that God is giving me his very best right now and that he doesn't I didn't was not trusting that he had his best for me and that I needed to do this best so I could get to the next best. And so anyways, leaned in and I thought, well, what if I could help other women break through this confusion? Because it was just a very random aha moment. And so, actually, at that conference that we were talking about, that was Sadie's conference, I talked to Cece and we were talking just about like life. And I was very confused about the book that was coming out with This Is My Happy Place. Was I supposed to write? And she just spoke this beautiful prayer over me and just I had this aha moment like, God's called me to this. And I'm like, I feel like there's got to be other women who feel confused and need someone like not just me, but a community of women to say, you are not alone. And because I truly believe that the enemy, if he can confuse you, he can stop you from showing up. And what is the greatest thing in your life right now? It is the purpose God has given you with the breath in your lungs. And so I'm like, you know what? That's it. The girl may not relate to my story, but I'm not doing it to get my story out. I'm doing it to give God the glory. So I'm going to find 10 other women that I know are solid women that are rooted in the Lord and that are willing to be transparent about their stories. So CC talked about some really tough stuff, which I'm excited for y'all to read. I've got like Emma Mae McDaniel in it. I've got Emma Brownwell. We've got Georgia Brown. Just like, and those are just a few of the girls. There's 10 girls that are just absolutely incredible. And so this book, I wanted to write unlike any other. So instead of having to read it from start to finish, you can just pick the chapter that's confusing you today because let's be real, it may be waiting one day. And then when you step into your dream and it doesn't look like you thought it would, like we talked about CC in the book, it
Yeah.
may be that the next. And so the more dog-eared, pages, the more notes, like the better. And just there's a whole community where I really wanted this to be not just like a book, but a movement. Like we're gonna lean into this because we know our purpose doesn't pause and we're gonna find freedom from the confusion and the stifledness that comes with feeling stuck. Because you're not stuck, you just think you are.
Yeah, come on. I can't wait for this thing to drop in October. I can't wait to have it in my hands and to read through all of the other women's stories. And y'all, there are parts of this book that I haven't ever like openly shared on like a forever bound anything ever
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
So if you
Same.
want to hear, right, you're like, and here is my closet, and like, but I'm excited because you know what? It's going to set some women free. And I
It is. It
know
is.
that to be true. And so, if you were like, gosh, what did you share, Cece? Well, guess what? You better hit that pre-order button
Snag the book.
because I'm going to put all the deets in the show notes with how you can get your hands on this book and support Hope too, even before the book comes out. Because what I will say is that for all authors, y'all, like there are special ways that you can show up for authors and podcasters. And if you love anything that they put out in the world, like if you follow Hope on social media, you're going to fall in love with her just as much as you did over these last 40 minutes. But if you want to support her and her dreams too, pre-ordering is the biggest way that you can help authors. So be sure if
Yes.
you feel any nudge, like lean into that and buy one, not just for you, but to gift your best friend or to gift a random stranger, like behind
Yes.
a coffee shop. Like,
Come
come on,
on.
let's do more acts of kindness like that. So
Yeah.
that would be so, so awesome. So thank you for sharing that so much, Hope. I can't wait.
I know, I can't wait, and thank you for sharing your story. Guys, I know that when you guys read about Cece, your mind is gonna be blown because it is super encouraging too. Like, she shares a lot about, like, how she broke through from some of that confusion, and I still remember the example, but I'm not gonna give it away.
Come
So,
on, come on.
yeah.
All right, Hope. Well, the last question that I ask guests on every episode is, what does joy mean to you?
So I was thinking about this a little bit. I really think joy means to me to be totally filled with all contentment from the Lord.
Mm,
And when you are so filled up by Him, because He can fill any gap with His goodness, you have a joy unlike something that you can explain. And it takes you to really just identify if you're wanting to achieve this, like, where in my life am I getting some contentment outside of the Lord? And for me, like sometimes I go on like where I just want to buy things. And it's like, okay, like things do not fill my heart. And so just noticing those things and then just giving those to the Lord and just asking Him to fill you, I think you will experience a joy unlike you've ever experienced before.
come on, that's so beautiful. That's joy, y'all. So, Hope, how in the heck can we show up for you? I know there's people who are like, okay, well, tell me her Instagram handle.
Yeah.
Like, where can I buy this book exactly, Cece? Will you just lay down all the deets in that way?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Hope Reagan Harris, Reagan. And if you follow me from CC's podcast, please send me an instant or a direct message because I would love to just say hey to you, send you like a little virtual hug. But that's probably the best place you can find me. Also, a little bit on TikTok. But CC's going to help me out with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, we are.
So.
And then the book, where's the best place for them to pre-order at?
Yeah. So Amazon's probably the easiest, y'all. Just literally search on Amazon Purpose Doesn't Pause, Hope Reagan Harris, and y'all should find it there or the link in my bio on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Hope, thank you so, so much for sharing your heart with us. We can't wait for the book to come out.
Can't wait. Thanks, Cece.
All right, all right. If that was not a fire episode, man, I don't know what was. Hope is just, I'm sure you can tell at this point, someone who radiates joy, like even through her voice the whole time as we're speaking face to face on Zoom. I am just smiling from ear to ear because her smile is quite literally infectious. I know that this book is going to transform the hearts of women and it's going to ignite purpose and to really remind women that your purpose doesn't ever pause. I'm so excited for this book to get into the hands of many so that more women, more people can be less confused and to step more into their purpose in life. So, man, as we said, head to the show notes, race there right after this, and pre-order her book. It is a huge way you can help authors, and we're shy of 8 weeks out. By the time you're listening to this, I don't know when you are. It's getting down to the wire. So go grab your book, grab it for a friend too, and even for your mama. And I just know it's going to bless so many. So thank you for listening this far. Y'all, if you loved a certain part of this episode, I'd love to know what exactly that was. You can shoot me a text to 615-813-4813. And by the way, it's really me on the other end. I text y'all back. Our community is growing rapidly, and I want you to be a part of it. So send me what you loved about this episode with Hope. If you're not following me yet on social, you can do that by following me at CCALBONERO on Instagram and on TikTok. And you can follow That's Joy the Podcast on both of those as well. Friends, if you have not yet subscribed, rated, or left a review for That's Joy, it'd mean the world. It'd mean the world if you took 2 seconds to go do that. It's the biggest way you can give a virtual hug to me from afar. And I have a mighty goal of climbing up to getting, can I even say it? Let's say it. 1,000 reviews. I know we can do it, y'all. So if you have not left a review, please take the time to just share your thoughts with the peeps on how That's Joy has impacted you. I'll never leave an episode without saying, if you have even the smallest desire to meet the creator of the universe, or if you've already been saved but you're not really free, I want to invite you to sit at the table of plenty with me and so many others. I'm telling you, there's an abundance here. There's an overflow here, and there's so much joy here. I'm here to tell you that God is for you. All you have to do is invite him into your heart right now. He's waiting for you. He wants to meet with you. And gosh, I'm so proud of you. If you just made this decision, I'd love to know you. Shoot me a text to that number in the show notes so I could pray for you. I love you. God loves you. And until next time, I'll chat with y'all next time. Thank you so much for being here.